Hey everyone, it's Marvin here. One of the few universals in education is that you have to have a learning target. That's just sound planning. And you also should, it's a good practice to have that learning target displayed so that the students can see it. Because that is, in fact, the vision. That's what the students are chasing after. That's what success for that particular class period looks like. But as a teacher, there's so much noise that goes on. There's so many things that would seek to distract students from pursuing that learning target. And so it is necessary for you as a teacher, as a leader in the classroom, to do whatever you can to make sure students stay focused on that learning target. So as a result, in this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips to make your learning target memorable. Number 1 is simply write the learning target on the corresponding assignment. Now, what this does is it adds relevance to what is being done and what was being asked of the students in the classroom. And as a leader, you have to be mindful of how your students are thinking. And students do not want to feel like they're wasting their time by completing an assignment. They want to see that continuous stream of relevance throughout everything you're asking them to do in the classroom. The other positive thing about placing that learning target on the assignment is that it allows the student to mentally reset, if you will. So let's say, for example, the student is called out to go to the office, or they go to the restroom, or for whatever reason, they leave the learning environment. Now, when they come back into the learning environment, there are things that they missed. Well, perhaps it just takes a quick review of the learning target to get that student back on track. That is time saved, because the student doesn't have to raise their hand and ask you, hey, what are we doing? By putting that learning target on the assignment, you're empowering that student to quickly catch up with the rest of the class without missing a beat. Number 2, you need to make sure that you're mentioning that learning target. I know it sounds simple, but it is a very important reminder. You should be mentioning that learning target at least 3 times in every classroom, at the beginning, middle, and the end. This practice also helps you to manage the classroom, because it reminds the students that your focus is solely on that learning target and nothing else. It also sends the message to the students that you have high expectations for all of them, because you're constantly talking about the learning target. For example, you've released the students to work on independent work, and you notice that there's some side conversations going on in one group in particular, and you want to redirect them so that they're making good decisions and not bad decisions. Well, what you can do is you can go through each of your groups and ask them about the learning target. You can go through and say, hey, Susie, I just want to give you an update. We've got about 25 minutes. Are you sure you're going to be able to hit that learning target by the end of the class period? Okay, cool. Thanks, Susie. Appreciate it. Then you could work your way to the group that you really want to redirect, which has Johnny in the group. And Johnny, he doesn't take public redirection well. And so you're going to, as a leader in the classroom, because you know your students, you're going to have to indirectly redirect Johnny. No, you don't focus on the fact that he's having side conversations and he's not working. What you do is you pose the learning target to him the same way you've posed it to Susie. Say, hey, Johnny, I just want to check in with you now. It looks like we've got about 18 minutes left in class. Do you think you're going to be able to hit that learning target with the time that we have left? If Johnny says yes, cool, that's a thumbs up, because Johnny is telling me that he understands that we're running short on time, and he's going to have to do some things in order to back up what he just told me. And lastly, when you're mentioning the target, you are sending the message to the students that there is a clear distinction between doing work and mastering the learning target. And that is so important that students hear that from their teacher. Because if they don't hear that from their teacher, they're going to internalize and believe that, oh, I'm doing work, so I must be doing fine. Everything is good, and that's what my teacher expects from me. There is a clear difference. The learning target must be the learning target, and the learning target can be watered down if you're not emphasizing the importance that all students master that learning target as opposed to simply doing work. Number 3, you need to remix the learning target. Remix the learning target. And that simply means find another way to state that learning target to keep the students off balance and make them think about what you're saying. Now, this may sound like a trick or manipulation, but it's very important because what it does is it prepares the students for the assessment. I can remember numerous times sitting through a class, paying attention, studying, and then when I get the test, it seems like the teacher never taught me any of that stuff. Now, I know all of you teachers out there have heard at least one student complain, "Did you teach this?" or did we learn this? And I believe this happens because throughout the course of the lesson, throughout the course of the unit, the student never really went through that full process of changing the way they think. And so there were probably some objectives that were not mastered along the way, even though they may have put in quite a bit of effort. And one way to remix the learning target is to simply ask a question. So let's look at this learning target here. This is a math one, obviously, and the learning target reads, isolate and solve for a single variable within a formula. Now, one question a teacher can ask the student is, how do you bring order to this problem? And what this question would do is it would remind the student that their goal is to solve for y. So the question is, how do I get the y on one side and all that other stuff on another side? And when the student considers that question in their mind, that takes them back to the original learning target, which is isolate and solve. And as the teacher is helping this student think, they can highlight that word order. How do you bring order to this problem? Order is a way of doing things. And so throughout this process, you're peppering that student with key mental triggers to guide them where they need to be. Number 4, you can turn the objective into a cliffhanger. All of you out there, you have shows that you love to watch, that you love to binge watch, and as you're getting closer to the end of the show, you're hoping that you get some answers to some of the questions that you've had about the show, but you notice that, oh my gosh, there's only 2 minutes left, and as those 2 minutes are going by, you're really getting into it, and you're about to get some answers when, boom, the credits start rolling. And you would have been happy with just 5 more minutes of your show, and then you would have finally had some conclusion as to what happened to that character that went missing. Well, you too can create a similar kind of drama with your learning target. And what I really like about adding the cliffhanger is that it requires a level of creativity. It also adds that continuity that students need to see. They need to see that continuity. They need to see that relevance. They need to see that they're not wasting time. So if you're able to add that cliffhanger, so if you're able to foreshadow what is to come next, now that the students have gone through the process of hitting the learning target for today, give them a little sneak peek of what could come next. What could be the result? What will they learn next? How will what they learn today, how will that matter tomorrow? And it gives you an opportunity to really have some fun with it and show some of your show that human side. I guess you would say it's really important to create opportunities to laugh with your students. So if it's something corny, that's even better, because those opportunities to laugh with your students, those are very, very special, and it rewards the students for their hard work in hitting that learning target for that lesson. For example, let's say you teach a middle school math class and you just taught a lesson and you want to reward the students. So you say, hey, good job, students. Looks like we all hit that learning target for the day. And that's very important. And it would be a really good idea to spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes studying this, because this math concept that I taught you today, it's going to help you solve the riddle that I have for you next class. Just something along those lines to hook them in and engage them and make them want to cherish what they learn, so that they can go forward and acquire more information in the next class. Number 5, use color in your objective to accentuate what you want students to do. Now, marketing research has shown that if you want people to remember or take in certain pieces of information, what you'll do is you'll turn that information, you'll add a different color to that information in order to make people remember. So let's go back to that other math learning target that we looked at. Isolate and solve for a single variable within a formula. Now, the things that I want to accentuate are the verbs. What are the students going to do? So I will change the color of isolate and solve to red. This indicates importance in the minds of the students. And it sends the message that if you can do this, you have been successful for this class period. So I've given you 5 tips to make that learning target memorable. Let's review them very quickly. Number 1 is write that learning target on the assignment. Number 2 is mention the learning target at least 3 times in a class. Number 3 is remix the learning target. Find different ways to restate that learning target to change the way students think about it. And number 4 is turn that learning target into a cliffhanger. Give them something to look forward to the next class. And number 5, use color to accentuate what you want students to do in order to learn. So if you found any of this information useful, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. And don't forget that the work you do is so important because it inspires others to chase their vision of success. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.